All right, I want to welcome all of you guys, our audience members, and our experts to a very special edition of the Dr. Phil Show. Today it's a special edition of Save the Bees, and I want to open up by asking the audience a few questions. So my first question being, with a show of hands, how many of you guys are aware of just how much bees contribute to our environment? Okay, a few hands go up, I understand. My second question, my follow-up question is, how many of you guys have eaten anything at all today, whether it be vegetables, grains, fruits, etc.? Okay, well, for those of you guys who have actually eaten today, and those of you guys who plan on eating something later, you have the bees to thank for that food. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, as of 2019, our bees are responsible for 1 in every 3 bites of food that we take. Many of you guys probably didn't know this. I also was very unaware of this until I met a friend and his family in high school who did beekeeping, and they introduced me to all the importance of bees. And then I also followed up with my bee experts here.
So, hello, my name is Eric Fernandez.
My name is Alex Escobar.
My name is Rodney Lenz. I'm an expert on bee habitat and the preservation of bee life.
Today, we're just hoping to inform you guys on just how important our bees are to our environment and our existence. Today's show will cover topics such as why and how the bees are dying, products that we don't even think about that we need bees for, and also how to save them. Our first guest is Eric, who is our beekeeper expert. And Eric, I just want to open the floor up to you and ask you, how bad exactly is this bee crisis? And to follow that up is how bad is the bee crisis, and exactly how are the bees dying, and how can we save them?
Okay. So, hello, my name is Eric. I'm the beekeeper expert. Thank you to Dr. Phil for having me here today to talk to all of you about the bee crisis. As you know, Dr. Phil, the loss of bees is a problem that cannot be ignored any longer, since we are losing bees more than they're actually being born, which could cause them to one day go extinct. Did you know that 38% of beekeepers' colonies died between October 1st, 2018 and April 1st, 2019, estimated by the Bee Partnership, which is making it the world's worst winter die-off rate since the study began 13 years ago. And it's also making it the record high number of bees deaths, according to sciencenews.org, accessed on December 8th, 2019. Now, as for why the bees are dying, it's actually a grand number of things that are leading to the bee crisis, with the leading causes of death being pesticides, decreasing crop density, poor beekeeping practices, and the loss of habitats. Pesticides being one of the biggest problems facing the bees today, because the pesticides weaken the bees' immune system and can kill them, as stated in an article by the NPR.org on June 19, 2019. And this is a video of bees when they're exposed to a pesticide.
Well, Eric, that is actually awful to see. All those bees are dying because of pesticides, you're saying? Wow, that is ridiculous. Our next topic we're going to move on to is going to be touching on products that that contain bees and we need bees for, and would not be able to have without the bees. For that, we move on to our next expert, which is Alex, our bee product expert. My 2 questions for you, Alex, today would just be, what products do we even overlook that we don't even realize we need bees for? And then also, what are some products that and foods that bees, we use bees for and we need bees for?
Okay, so that's a really good question. First, obviously, we're going to start off with honey. Everyone knows what honey is. You'd actually bring some in, because, you know, fresh honey is always the best honey. Here's honey. So it was first used back in a couple thousand years ago by the Egyptians as like an antiseptic to kind of clean wounds and stuff. That's one of the first uses of it. Another thing about bees that without them we wouldn't have is things like, you know, maybe something that you even have on you is chapsticks.
Oh, so like something like my Burt's Bees.
Birds bees, that's just food, you know, for ladies. So along with things like chapstick, there's also lotions, you know, it's kind of like things for your skin, kind of to keep it fresh, shampoos, and honey is one of those major things that without it we wouldn't have, or less of them. Now on the food part, besides honey itself being, you know, edible and delicious, it's actually more of a ripple effect. According to Business Insider, in May 9th, 2019, they had a breakfast that was missing all the foods that without bees there to pollinate them wouldn't exist. So this includes things like coffee, which I'm sure everyone drinks coffee. If not everyone, then at least most of the people in here drink coffee. Some way to get through the day. And then avocados. And if you haven't had like avocado toast, you've probably been living under a rock or something. It's delicious. You can't live without it. And almonds. So like things like Nutella and like almond spread, like nutrition bars, things like that. But it gets deeper. Besides the things that we eat, like, you know, coffee, avocados, and almonds, it also gets rid of crops and plants that other animals feed on. So not necessarily those things would be gone, but they would become more of a luxury. So things like cows and fish would get more expensive because they feed on these certain plants that bees pollinate, and without bees to pollinate wouldn't exist.
Interesting. So essentially you're saying that without the bees pollinating are things like grass and foods that other animals eat and need for their nutrition, that it's not possible without them, like they aren't able to eat either.
Exactly, yeah. So maybe not as much. So something as like salmon would turn into something as expensive as like caviar, you know, so it would turn more into a luxury.
Okay. Thank you for that insightful information. I was not aware that not only is that shedding light on how we have to shed that the things that change for us, but it's also changing the ecosystems around us and the other animals around us. It's affecting them as well. I now turn to our next expert, who is Rodney, our bee preservation and habitat expert. And I just want to open the floor to you and ask the question that I think we're all wondering right now after we've learned all this information. My question is, how can we save the bees as of right now, and what kind of drastic changes need to be made in which we could for us to actually save the bees?
Well, that's a good question. So how we can save the bees is agriculturally, farmers need to limit their pesticides, and then we need to start growing our own flowers and making our own little gardens in our yards. According to the article in the U.S. and the World Pesticide Use is up by Emily Marquez, a biologist for Pesticide Action Network of August 2018, states that data released in 2017 from 2008 to 2012, agricultural expenditures for pesticides go up to $9 billion. That is 66% of the pesticide use, along with the herbicide use, is 50% in 2011, and an increase in up to 60% in 2012, and it's gradually increasing as the years go on. So to save the bees, a lot of the bees grow within the farmlands because that's where most of the weeds and all of that are. But a lot of farmers use pesticides to preserve their crops from animals. So to save the bees, farmers need to limit the use of pesticides on their crops. Now, what we could do, according to the video, We Can Save the Bees Together, a TED Talk by the spokesperson Sarah Redelaire of 2014, states that a colleague of mine worked in Minnesota with a farmer. The farmland was 2,000 acres, and their goal was to increase production and save money at the same time. The farmer and her colleague sectioned off farms with pesticides and herbicides, and limited mowing to let sections of the farm for bees to grow. They came to the realization that with less money on pesticides, they were able to save more bees and save more money.
That's awesome insightful information.
Thank you, or I'd like to thank the Swedish government for having us come out here and inform you guys about extraterrestrial life. Over time, there's been several accounts of alien sightings and claimed experiences of contact with humans. Some even claim to have been abducted, and many find it hard to believe that we are the only form of intelligent life in our universe today. We will be informing you all about recent encounters and sightings, the U.S. government hiding and accepting alien life, space and the universe, and sustainable life on other planets.
Between the three of us, we have over 50 combined years of hunting and informed experience. We are each members of a previously classified organization known as the Unknown Stranger Alien, Non-Citizen Extraterrestrial Being Informational Organization, or for short, the USANEI, or EIO. There we go.
To begin, let's start with some examples that hit close to home and also are quite mysterious.
Although there aren't many major UFO sightings in the last few years, back in the mid-20th century was when UFO sightings seemed to happen more than usual. According to History.com access, December 6, 2019, after Harold Dahl, his son, and his dog saw six donut-shaped UFOs over their boat in Puget Sound, the strange craft started raining metallic debris. The next day, Dahl was visited by a man in a black suit who somehow knew the details. His message was to forget the whole thing or suffer the consequences. While there was no evidence of this actually happening, like every other UFO sighting, it was investigated by Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book was a group in the Air Force that investigated actual UFO sightings under UFO sightings. Under Blue Book file number 62-83849, in the FBI files, it says that through 1947 and 1969, 12,618 sightings were actually investigated by this group, and only 700 remain unidentified. And now Danny with some interesting stuff about the universe.
Now, the world here is our own, and for the most part, we control what's happening. But let's explore further into the stars and out into the unknown. So first off, according to BusinessInsider.com, visited on December 8th, 2019, an astrophysicist, Frank Drake, drew up a famous formula in 1961, and it was the dawn of worldwide search for extraterrestrial investigation. Now, when he wrote it, there's a lot of things that go into it, like rate of stars in the galaxy and whatnot, formations. But what we're here to look at is the dawn of the search for extraterrestrial life. So, we go into the possibility of life. There are infinite universes and stars. Now, how much have we discovered? Little to nothing of what we know is out there. Now, the most recent, or I should say, our biggest accomplishment is Voyager 1 that almost went out into 13 billion miles out into the space. Now, that's crazy. But there are also things out there that we can't know, like life. So we question ourselves on whether Mars ever had life on it. Now we know there's no life on Mars, but for us in Earth, there's things called extremophiles. These things live in extreme conditions, like things you see in Antarctic ice and the Atacama Desert in South America. And now we understand the technology that advances forward. We have companies like SpaceX challenging NASA to go further. But we'll see where that goes in a couple years. And now, we go on to.
Thank you, Danny. According to an article published by NASA.gov on November 2004, in order for life to flourish on another planet, it must sit inside something we call the habitable zone. And that's somewhere in between extremely hot and extremely cold, also to kind of protect it from the radioactive material in the atmosphere. So, it must stay at the right distance away from a star just like our sun. A planet must also have an atmosphere that holds several gases to keep it warm, and it also must be made out of solid rock with a molten core in order for geothermal energy to regulate its temperature and also protect it from the radiation. Now, it's a safe bet that microbial life as well as single-cell organisms exist outside of our planet, but intelligent life, or even insects and plants, that's another conversation. The human species is less than 200,000 years old, and intelligent life takes a much longer time to develop and form compared to microbial life. So, with that being said, other galaxies may be far older or far younger than ours, which begs the question, has intelligent life already formed somewhere else? Or maybe they've been far extinct, or maybe they've been extinct for a long, long time. Every living thing leaves some type of signature on its planet. We use fossils to study extinct life on our planet, while on other planets such as Mars, we can see dried up rivers and dried up lakes that support the claim that there was once, or possibly still is, water. And with water brings life. Even if the remaining water on Mars is frozen, underneath its surface, it could still support microbial life, and deep underground in its ice cap might be where that lies. Now, as previously stated, we aren't really sure what's out there. Light from the unknown stars and galaxies just hasn't had time to reach us yet, so that's kind of the reason why we haven't been able to even see what other planets or galaxies are out there. With so much uncertainty in its size alone, the idea of sustainable life on other planets doesn't seem too much of a stretch. It might not change.
Let it be known, we're not here to persuade you to believe whether aliens are real or not, rather to inform you that white people, including us, believe life outside of Earth actually exists. So now that we have gone over some sightings, stories, as well as sustainable life on other planets, hopefully we made it easier for you all to understand where we are coming from.
Thank you, Ian. Now, it might not change your world to acknowledge that aliens are real or not, but it's not a crazy thought that a lot of people are obsessed with it. Life outside of Earth is a pretty crazy thing to think about. After all, do we really want to be alone in our universe? That's up to you. Thank you for
Hey Danielle, I'd probably turn it down just a smidge because if you're gonna have it running the whole time.
Couldn't really do it.
Actually, this is okay. Yeah, just so long as you talk louder over it.
What do you say?
Oh my God, hi, come in. I'm so glad you came. You know what? Here's a drink.
Thank you so
Take
much.
it, go ahead, take a seat. I'll sit right here. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you guys? Thank you for coming in. I'm glad you made it. Let me get you some drinks. Here you go. Take a seat.
Have you ever been in an awkward conversation that turned awkward fast and you didn't have the proper knowledge on how to keep the conversation going? According to Mariah Kelly, on the 29th of January 2010, more than 80% of all conversations is about other people. In other words, it's gossip. We can all improve on our conversational skills. We We all have to communicate with people in our everyday lives, and if you can improve on how you communicate with others, it can help you with jobs, school, and everyday life experiences. There are many ways on how you can improve your conversational skills. So today we will help you learn on how to improve your conversational skills by providing some tips that can be helpful in all interactions you may enter.
So the first couple of tips, we found a foundation with starting a conversation.
Hey, I saw you guys. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
So really cute with your Christmas sweaters. Can I sit with you guys? You guys look really
Of course,
approachable right
of
now.
course.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm Daniela.
I'm Sydney.
I'm Andrea. I'm the intern. Nice to meet you.
Actually, did you know, according to becomingmorecompliant.com on January 22nd, 2019, when it comes to having a good social interaction, appearing approachable is good, and if we don't seem approachable, then our interactions won't go as smoothly as they could. Studies have shown that even faking a smile at first can change your own internal state to a more positive one by lowering heart rate and stress.
I saw you guys making great eye contact, and according to GarfinkelExecutiveCoaching.com, published in 2015, one-on-one conversation, it is a great way to maintain eye contact, builds credibility, and demonstrates you care about your listeners. Whether it's speaking in a crowd or one-on-one, and maintaining eye contact maintaining a good eye contact keeps a good conversation going.
Also, according to becomingmorecompelling.com on January 22nd, 2019, eye contact is a hardwired way to connect with each other as humans.
So now that we've met, we can use other eye-catching tips to help continue the conversation.
So, what type of movies do you like?
I love all sorts of movies, horror, comedy, Christmas movies, you know, just in time for the time of the year.
Interesting. According to an article written by Spectre on November 16, 2016, tip number 1 to improve your conversation, don't ask yes or no questions, so you can unlock more information about the person. And what do you like movies in general?
I like them because they distract you from your everyday busy lives.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So according to the same article, tip number 2, asking questions about specifics lead people to give you answers and not facts. And also, according to an article written by Joel Marpico, who is recognized as one of the top 50 coaches in America, it is important to work on developing your listening skills. I like that you took the time to listen carefully to give a good response, as well as taking the time to respond. It is a great way to keep a conversation going by looking for ways to clarify or rephrase what you're trying to say so you can be understood.
Now that we have mastered how to continue the initial conversation, we can learn how to build off each other and connect to one another.
I like Christmas movies too, but I'm not a fan of horror movies. But I respect your opinion, but have you seen the new movie Elf? It's my favorite movie all the time.
Yeah, I love that movie. I really appreciate that you listen and respect my opinion. According to Forbes, in the article on 13 ways you can have meaningful conversations published on August 18, 2013, listening and remembering key points, asking good questions shows that you're engaged and you're trying to generally relate, and it shows that you're interested and want to be included in the conversation.
And as well as in the article, according to Joel, he gives 3 main points of how to make sure you are being understood. You can look for ways to rephrase or clarify, like I said before, and sometimes in case you weren't understood. It also ties into not being an excellent speaker, but also a great listener. According to the article he wrote and published in 2015, respect your audience. Recognize your message is not just about what you want or about just yourself. You should sincerely care about the unique perspectives of those whom you are communicating with. And one of the best ways to show your respect is simply by paying attention to what they say.
Also, according to becomingmorecompelling.com on January 22nd, 2019, using the spokes method will help you connect with anyone on virtually any topic, which is a skill like thinking around the topic or adding details to the conversation. There's also the iceberg effect, which is developing a wide range of interests so that you can connect with more people by sliding into the conversation and adding your opinion.
Such a classic movie.
Oh my god, I love that movie. I love that movie so much.
So like I was saying, sorry, I love the humor in the Elf. It's just such a funny movie.
Why do you think it's so funny?
It's just really funny, you know? The humor in it, it's really good.
Yeah. Why is he the best? Like I was saying, I don't think I could ever be as comfortable as he is in his movies.
No, I mean, yeah, he does like to be out there. Yeah, and also I don't think I can get in his shoes as well. Cheers to that.
Well, so I just asked very wide questions. According to the same article by Spectre in 2016, tip number 3, asking why 3 times is the easiest way to get in a conversation.
According to becomingmorecompliant.com on November 22nd, 2019, we all know that people typically like people who are like them. The more shared connections you have with someone, the more likely you are to hit it off. I also noticed an interruption that was handled very well. No one likes to be interrupted, but look, it's bound to happen from time to time. I like how Andrea said, going back to what I was saying, this is subtle, you're not calling anyone out, and you're steering a little conversational nudge. I also liked how Yumi got excited and her that of your natural energy, just 10% can have a great effect on the conversation. People typically mirror whatever vibe you can put out into the world. If you can show enthusiasm for the topic, location, party, or event that you're at, then the energy becomes infectious to others.
Also, according to Forbes, try not to get too excited about your next thought because it can come as you're not really listening.
At this point of this conversation, it is important to ask one another if we've missed anything. According to the same article I read, I'm obsessed with the article, sorry. So tip number 4, when you wrap up your conversation, you should ask more deeper to know each other more. This opportunity to ask, like, they will likely suggest questions to provide valuable foundations. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to our ugly Christmas party. I'm glad you all had fun. You all did well, very well, keeping the conversation